Social presence. What is it? Before I introduce the guest speaker, Dr. Disned, I want to share with you what I found out about social presence and the impact it has on student learning. There are many complex definitions to describe social presence. Simply put, social presence is the connection a student feels in relationship to the communication within a learning environment, among peers, and with the instructor. There are differences between a face-to-face classroom and an online classroom that impact the relationships between students when interacting with other students and with their instructors. Scholars fear that those students who thrive in a face-to-face classroom will regress in an online learning environment, giving limited attention to group discussions and coursework. They also feel that students who are reserved in a face-to-face classroom will further lose their identity and may become invisible in an online learning environment. Much research has been done to find answers on how online learning impacts the social presence of students. When I started my journey as a higher education student, my first classes were taken at a community college in face-to-face classrooms. 5 years later, I became an online student earning my master's degree, and am now an online student seeking a specialist degree. I have my own feelings regarding the impact social presence has on me as a learner. I wanted to see how the opinions of other students differed from my own when asked questions related to social presence in face-to-face and online learning environments. So I ventured out to interview colleagues I work with and students at the local community college. All of the participants agreed to be interviewed and to have their comments published. I first asked them to state their names and explain the types of learning environments they have enrolled in.
My studies here are related towards a transfer to X-ray technician. And my name is Jared Bradfield. I am changing my program, but I'm going into the nursing.
Teach 3rd grade, and I've had quite a few online classes.
I'm Cheryl, and I have had no online classes. All of my classes are face-to-face. I'm Kim, and I've only done one class that was strictly online.
I'm Jim. I've done 2 or 3 strictly
David
online.
Mykota and Randy Duncan suggest in their article, Learner Characteristics as Predictors of Online Social Presence, that instructors need to structure interaction patterns and that social presence requires immediacy and intimacy. They feel that instructors can set the stage for social presence to exist with a student if they contribute to discussions, reply promptly to email, address students by their first name, and become familiar with posted biographies. I asked participants to explain their relationships and feelings about their online instructors. Here is what they said.
If I need to talk with my instructor, or ask questions, or get feedback, I want them right there so that I can get that information. And my online classes, I've always had good feedback where they wrote back me with emails or whatever it was, and they came back to me right away. I didn't have to wait days and days for everything to be processed. They were on time and took care of all that. So I guess in the classroom, out of the classroom, online, I would want that constant feedback, just like you were, face-to-face, and be it through an email, phone calls, whatever.
Feedback is definitely important, and I guess depending on the content and the class type, recognizing that you might want feedback in different ways. And I know one of the things that made the online classes really successful is that professor said she had all these different ways you could contact her. She would Skype you, she would call, email, whatever. You could meet her in person, face-to-face if you wanted. And I did a variety of those things depending on what we were working on. So that was nice.
I would say taking hybrid courses and online courses. I've been taking hybrid courses for 16 months, and I've found consistently that instructors in hybrid courses, online courses, take much longer to get back to you. And what I found is that in these online courses, our peers, colleagues, cohort end up falling back on each other for advice. Through Blackboard discussions where we're posting on each other's ideas and articles.
Yeah, online is probably one of the best I've had. She's very, very organized. She's actually in Spokane, and so she's done a really good job of organizing it. She has a calendar that shows all the assignment due dates and has outlined all of, testing and what she expects.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't really any questions going into it. And, she talks and communicates to everybody all during the week. And automatically post stuff to the discussion boards. So it makes it real easy. When you log in, you see it, and you see the updates of what she's going to do, and what's coming up, and reminders and stuff. So this quarter has been really good.
But sometimes it can be a pain just because, on one hand, most of it is, you're doing it through, your communication is solely based on email. They don't really prefer phone calls. And so it's a waiting game. If you don't line everything out just right, it could actually screw up your day or your schedule. Ironically, I just took a test today based on the fact that I had to line it all out yesterday and make sure it was still going. But, most of the time he's pretty consistent, so I guess I've been lucky because I've heard horror stories where, it's a cat and mouse thing. But for me personally, it's been okay.
Shin Yan and Shi Tu suggest that interactions between students in a face-to-face learning environment are supported by physical presence and social interactions. In an online learning environment, the physical presence is removed. If online students don't have social interaction, their presence may be minimal or even absent. Interaction with other students and group work is an important part of the learning process. I wanted to know how they felt about these aspects of the learning process in both online and the face-to-face classes. Discussions regarding their interactions with other students included the topics of discussion post, group work, and reliability.
She used a variety of formats for us to do our class through. One of the things she used was voice thread, and so she videotaped herself, so we saw her. And then when we responded, we could use our webcam, so I could picture a lot of my classmates, which was kind of nice. And then we also used we used Goodreads as part of it, so that all of us were on Goodreads at the same time, responding to each other right then, on top of the posting on Angel. So that to me was nice, because it made it feel like more real people that I was talking to than had it just been posting to each other's responses. So that was important to me, I guess. I suppose it could go either way. Kind of like what Kim was saying, she had the webcams and things, but if people are texting you back or emailing you back and giving you thoughtful questions and concerns and opinions, you can kind of get a gist for what they're like and who they are and how they're trying to help you. And so in that respect, I guess it kind of barrels down to the information and feedback you're getting, and you can decipher from that information. If they're giving you thoughtful questions and concerns and, hey, did you look at it this way, then you kind of get the same information, and you can kind of get their body language and those kinds of things.
Yeah, I was going to say that sometimes maybe, what's popping in my head is sometimes the face-to-face, all the body language, those things get in the way, actually, of my learning, because then I have to worry about whether or not if I said something and they kind of look like that, then are they criticizing what I'm saying, or are they thinking it gets in my way of just learning or talking about whatever it is? Yeah, and I don't know, for some reason I'm almost kind of wondering a little bit if the anonymity, can't say that word right now, the anonymousness of online might fit my learning style better, just because then I can be anonymous and not worry about some of the social things going on, and I can just be about whatever I'm learning instead of social.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with that. Learning styles, depending on how you learn best, it might suit each person differently. Kim, she could see her instructor. I've had classes where we were communicating with the class in Vancouver, and we were talking back and forth to them. Well, it was a 4-hour class, and the instructor's in Vancouver, and there was a point where it was just 4 hours of her talking to her class, and us just watching, and it was terrible. So, and looking and being in a class, you get to see her gestures. Well, I get to see her gestures, but looking in a class, seeing the gestures, seeing the sarcasm, that type of learning environment suits piggyback from your peers relevant to what you're writing, or are they just writing to get the grade because you have to have 3 posts per each student? Is the depth there? You can see if it is, but generally speaking, you're questioning it. And a lot of times you just get the one or two liners just to get the check on the grade book.
making me think a little bit about for like my face-to-face classes. I would, now that you made me talking about your peers, that's who I like to meet with and talk with and go over the papers more. The instructor kind of is more off unless I have a personal relationship with them or we built a connection or something you really talk about. The instructor's gone. Really, in my opinion, I'm more concerned about what my peers and we are collaborating together, which has that collaborative relationship. So I can see where you're saying though, like if somebody just had to collaborate, it doesn't have that
Taken
natural.
both, and I found that, you know, with online there tends to be a lot more flexibility and stuff, but with the interaction with the students, I don't know that I like that as much online as I do in class. I think people tend to filter a little bit better when they're in a classroom setting than if they're online. This quarter I'm taking a food nutrition class, and we have these discussion forums that we have to post to every week, and we have to respond to some of the other people's primary postings, and I end up wasting about 45 minutes filtering to try to find some intelligent ones to respond to, and so that's kind of a challenge there, but the flexibility is kind of the payoff there.
I find it beneficial in the sense of when you struggle with something, there is somebody else to bounce an idea off of that might be able to shed some light on it. Because like even all teachers say, they all have a different style, teaching style, but sometimes other people can put it to light and go, bam, it clicks. Whereas, you know, and also I'm more social than a lot of people, so I guess it's better being all by yourself. There's a professional right there that says, okay, well this is where you should go. Plus, with the group benefit, you have, like I said earlier, you're able to interject and bounce off ideas. Okay, well, I wasn't getting it. How'd you figure that out, or whatever else? Whereas you can, online, you can kind of bounce back on the forum and see what. And every once in a while, you still do get some good information, but it's not as immediate. It's not. I have a question, I need to ask it, and here it is. It's you wait for a response, and sometimes it doesn't.
Get on and kind of interact, you know, in real time, but you know that still is fairly limited. Most of it's, you know, email communication, or you have emails inside of the like LCC portal, you know, and you get on and you're doing your work through your classroom, and so then you're just kind of posting stuff back and forth. But most of the stuff is not real time, so it makes it difficult to try to corner somebody who, you know, not in a bad way, but you know, who's not participating, or you know, everybody else is working hard and this one's kind of slacking off, that kind of thing. So that becomes you know, just in the one class that we have, you know, it's kind of a hybrid course. Some of it's online, some of it's here, but we have a group assignment, and at the last minute we were scrambling trying to figure out what was going on, why we hadn't got from one person. We sent text messages and emails and whatever, and you don't have that online. But you know, we had that, and then I never got a response at the last minute. You know, the two assignments before, in the 11th hour, he came through with a small token, you know, of, you know, whatever.
Drop in the bucket.
Yeah. And it just, you know, we got the assignment in, but after that, I just simply communicated with the teacher and said, hey, this is where we're at, and you know, somebody's not really participating and not really doing the work. If he doesn't participate in the future, what do you want us to do? And she said, well, then just, you know, note that, and she wouldn't count it against the rest of them.
Some studies suggest that students who are reserved in a face-to-face classroom may become more reserved in an online environment. The online learning environment could even cause these students to become invisible participants. Do you feel that these students would flourish or become invisible in the online learning environment?
They're not faced with their crowd. And actually, they say two of the most, the second most feared thing to death is public speaking or making known of oneself, you know, verbally. So essentially, if that's the case, then I can see where if you don't have to put a face to the name and you can speak freely without any judgment, you're naturally going to feel more comfortable in that environment. Now, based on that, for those people, that is specific. That does work for them. Just like anything, tomato, tomato, different strokes.
On the online classes, and previously I completed a bachelor's degree for computers, and so there was a lot of that you know, kind of personality type that was there, and you know, I'm pretty social, and so when all of us would go into the classroom setting where we actually had to complete stuff, they had a really hard time in a group setting, whereas you get them behind a computer and they excel, and they would actually beat most of us, on a lot of the assignments. So I see them excelling
More of an introvert, and I'm also a person that sits back and thinks and processes out everything. So I'd be probably more of one of those people that you were describing that are, sit quietly and don't necessarily participate in a lot of classes. But I'm really comfortable with that, and actually I really don't think that inhibited my learning, because I'm a person that processes it and learns that way. So I know that they might suggest that I'm not participating, and maybe that means I'm not engaged in learning as much, but I think we almost have to question a little bit of how you interpret whether or not somebody's learning. And for me, since I haven't done very many online classes, I haven't done any online classes, but I've done other online experiences, I find that I tend to do the same thing. I like to read if somebody's posted something on a bulletin board or a Facebook page or something like that, read it, think about it, process it, and then I come back and I'm able to type everything, and I think I feel more confident on expressing my ideas at that, because I can think it out, process, I have my time to think it out, and I comment. It could be 12 o'clock at night when I'm commenting on something like Facebook. So I think I would enjoy online classes much.
Trusting other people is a huge aspect of online learning. When the only information you know about another person is based on the communication via coursework and the physical presence is taken away, how does this impact your learning?
A whole level of stress into your equation. Like, not only are you worrying about your portion of the work and what you need to do, but now you have to worry about somebody else, like you said, you don't have any personal relationship with. There's no connection, there's no respect built yet, there is no reliability that you know of that person's going to come through. You can only rely on yourself, and that's a scary feeling when it's cut up into 3-4 different pieces and you are accountable. Your grade, you are directly affected by whether or not they participate. And that's pretty scary to me. I mean, that definitely makes the experience that much more high stress and high.
After listening to my colleagues and the students I interviewed, you have to think about the impact online learning may have on you. While Dr. Dissaned makes his way to the stage, I want you to ask yourself this question: how does social presence impact your online learning experiences?